Today we're going to be troubleshooting one of the most common problems with an electric dryer. So we have an Amana dryer here, and the other day it was running and I noticed that there was a big thunk, and then all of a sudden it wasn't making the same sound as it normally does. So on investigation we realized that the drum was not spinning. However, there was the hum of a motor and there was the heat coming through. So that tells me that there's probably something wrong with either the belt or the pulleys in the system. The first thing I like to do whenever I'm working on an appliance is to get the serial number and the model number. So on a dryer, you'll find that on the inside door, and look up your warranty information. So if your warranty is still up to date, oftentimes you can just call them up and they will send somebody out to fix everything for free. However, in this case, this is an 8-year-old unit. It only had a 1-year limited warranty, so we are well past that. And this is a relatively easy fix, so we're going to work on it today. When you're working on this project, of course, you want to make sure to de-energize the equipment by unplugging it. So my first instinct when working on this was to take apart the back panel. However, for accessing the drum, that is not where you start. It's actually relatively easy, and all you need is a screwdriver and a socket wrench. The first screws to remove are right here, so you're going to take off the lint trap, and you've got 2 Phillips head screws right here. This top panel is now just held in with some clips, so you can pull that out with a simple flathead screwdriver. Just sort of wedge it in there and pop it up. Pop it up, and this whole thing just rotates off. Now we're going to remove the front panel. It's held in by a screw on either side. For some reason, those screws are not the standard 1/4 inch. They are about 5/16. I'm going to use a socket wrench. Put these screws somewhere safe because you will need them later. This electrical connection is for the door safety feature, so we're just going to simply lift this little flap and then disconnect that. Now this tilts out. You'll notice that the drum kind of falls out a little bit because the drum is really just held in by being pinned by the front and the back. So let it lift down. And this you just need to lift up off those 2 tabs. One side off. Second side off. I'm going to kind of gently rest the drum down. Collect that clip that fell off earlier. Set that to the side. The obvious culprit here today is that our band is broken. Fortunately, this is a relatively cheap and easy fix. You can go to your local hardware store and get a replacement band. So Amana is made by Whirlpool, so the Whirlpool style dryer band will fit. However, check the width. So I looked up our model number and we need 92¼ inches. This comes in a couple of different lengths, so make sure to get the right size. But while we have it here, it's easy enough just to remove the drum. We're going to check those pulleys, and then also while you have it open, just go ahead and vacuum all the dust out of it. There's a lot of dust that accumulates, especially if it's been several years since the last time your machine has been serviced. The front edges of the dryer have these rounded cutouts to make it easy to pull out that round drum. It's not held in by any screws or anything, so you just lift it straight out. When we first opened this up, it was caked with a thick layer of dust, so we just vacuumed all that up to reduce the risk of having a fire or overheating the motor. The next thing we want to do is check to make sure all the parts are working. So this is the tensioner pulley. We want to make sure it's moving freely and doesn't have any brakes. These are the 2 wheels that the drum sort of rests on. They should be flowing freely. And I noticed this one in the back, it moves, but it's a little stiff. So what you can use is just a simple machine lubricant on these. Do not use a WD-40, but yeah, any sort of machine lubricant will penetrate those bearings and make it work well. If it's really bound up or the wheel itself is cracked, these can be replaced as well. To install this band, you want these grooved sides to be on the inside facing the drum. So they're going to wrap around your entire drum, and then you have this tensioner pulley, which kind of rests right there. And you're going to take a loop of the tensioner pulley underneath here and around that engine piece. Here's a close-up of the pathway of that band without the drum installed. When installing the drum, I put the drum on first and then wrap the band around it. It's a little tight underneath, and that band should be relatively snug, but you should be able to manhandle that band over the tensioner pulley and around the motor. Make sure that the drum itself is seated well on that back piece. And then when you go to install this front door, make sure that it's seated well on that front panel as well. The trickiest part of this whole reassembly was getting this door back on. It's difficult to line it up with those little tiny hooks, and then once you got it on, you got to be careful not to bend anything. So once that's on, you pull it forward, make sure everything lines up. Then I'm just reattaching each screw with my fingers, just once it's lined up, get it finger tight, and then I'll bring the wrench in and just slowly ratchet it back up. And once it's fully tightened, now we can go ahead and make that electrical connection and put the top back down. It doesn't hurt to make sure everything is nice and snug and give the drum a little spin. Once you're satisfied, go ahead and pop the lid back down and then put those top two screws back in. As we were cleaning out all the lint and dust and everything underneath, I found a pocket full of change. I think this is one of the first projects I've ever done where I actually found money. This will put a little down payment on buying that new belt. So let's test it out and see if it works. I hear it spinning. So now we know that everything is hooked up correctly. The heat was already working, so I think that's good to go. The dryer belt is one of the most common failures on a dryer. That's definitely no need to replace the entire unit. This unit's already 8 years old. I bet it'll last another 15 or 20 years as long as we take good care of it. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe, and leave any comments if you guys have ever worked on a similar project. Thanks.